Hi everyone. Today we have a very special episode on the Personal Finance Playbook. I'm your host, Coach Jack of Longhorn Financial. When thinking about college, as parents, we tend to focus on things like grades and test scores, graduation rates, and of course, cost. But ultimately, we want to just know if our son or daughter can get in, do well, and get a good job after graduation. But despite what we might think is and value as parents, oftentimes students can have a completely different view of college. Many times what factors they consider are completely different than what we would consider. So today we'll be hearing from the student perspective. With me today are two very special guests, JT Carroll, who will be a junior at Elon University in North Carolina, and next to him is Ali Rega, who will be a sophomore at Westfield State University. Thanks for being on the show, Ali and JT.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, let's get right into it. I'm really excited about this. So first, let's start with you, Ali. Just share with us what school you go to, Westfield, but what major you're studying.
Yep, so I'm a special education major with a minor in psychology.
Okay, at Westfield. Excellent. How about you, JT?
So I'm a finance major specifically at Elon.
Okay, excellent. And I know that you're out of high school, but it hasn't been that long, so I'd like you to think back a little bit to when you were a high school senior. JT, why don't you start with this? What schools, if you remember, what schools did you originally apply to before you settled on Elon?
Other than Elon, I applied to Wake Forest, and then everything else was Massachusetts and Connecticut. UML, Stonehill, Northeastern, Fairfield, and Quinnipiac.
Okay, all right, that's quite the range. So how about you, Ali?
So since I want to be a teacher, I focus mainly at state schools because they're known for their education programs. I applied to Bridgewater, Worcester, Westfield. I really liked Keene, and there was a few others in there, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, so completely different schools depending on what you, what you want to study. Now, aside from costs, right, because I know as parents, cost is always a huge factor.
Oh, yeah.
But aside from cost, Ali, what were some of the things that you were looking for as you applied, as you considered that list of schools? I know, you know, part of it was driven by your major, but what were some of the other things that you were looking for?
Yeah, so math schools are known for their education programs, and they really teach you to the tests, the MTELs, to become a teacher. So that pretty much was my main focus when picking a school. I didn't want to leave the state because then they would teach me to their state's test when I want to live in Massachusetts and teach here.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't think about that. So how about you, JT? What were some of the other things that you looked at when you were trying to pick schools?
I wasn't sure what I wanted to study coming into college, so I really looked at like a variety of majors, what programs each school offered, what was the range. That was mostly what I evaluated schools on, and then I looked smaller too.
Now, I know that for each student it's different, right? But I'd just like to have you two share. So, so we'll start with you, JT. To what extent or how important were things like being close to home or away from home? What the campus environment was like, you know, in the city, suburban, rural, right? How, you know, because ultimately you're the ones who have to live this,
Yep.
right? Not us as parents, right?
Yep.
So how important to you were some of those types of things?
What was the first one again?
Just, you know, but things like campus type, you know, the distance
yeah.
away from home, you know, close versus far.
Definitely being close versus far was not important to me really. I wanted to sort of distance myself from home to begin with. So where I ended up was less of a concern, but like campus type, I found that more important. Definitely. It was going to be either completely urban or completely rural for me. And
Okay.
I didn't really look in between because it can be such a huge mix that way.
And by the way, how big is Elon, approximately?
About 6,000 students.
Okay, so not huge, but not small, not tiny either.
Exactly, yeah. Right in the middle.
Okay. And would you categorize Elon as, and I'm not familiar with where it is in North Carolina, but is that in the city or is that more of a rural campus?
It's definitely more rural. The nearest city is Greensboro, like 45 minutes away or so.
Okay, all right, excellent. So what about you, Ali? You know, again, distance from home, right? You know, close being far, campus environment, rural, suburban, city. How much of those did those factors play a role for
so
you?
I need to be close to home. I definitely so I definitely knew I wanted to go to school in Massachusetts right away. I didn't need the only one I applied out of Massachusetts was Keene, which is not far.
Okay.
But yeah, I really wanted to be close, and I also, since I was little, like have always wanted a campus with like grass. I wanted like just like a normal campus, not normal I guess, but like what you would think of what a campus was when you were little, like a center with grass and with all the buildings around it, and
Okay.
that's where I want to go. So.
And Westfield, and I've been to Westfield
Mm-hmm.
and looked at that with my son. It's next, you know, Westfield, the city is not that big.
Yeah, it's a pretty small town, and it's weird. It's kind of Westfield. It's like it's its own little place off of it. It's kind of in the middle of a neighborhood, and then you go into the school, and it just feels like you're not in a town anymore.
Right. And I know from having visited there myself, there's actually a lot of sort of open
There
green
is, yep.
space, common space.
Yep.
It's one of the things I actually liked about it when I visited. Okay. All right. No, thank you. Because again, you know, it's stuff like that you can't always measure, right? It's
Yep.
not like measuring GPA or SAT scores, right? So let me ask you this, and Allie, so what were some of the final factors that ultimately led you to pick Westfield over some of the others?
Yep. So my favorite school is Keene in New Hampshire, and I was set on going there. I told everyone that's where I was going. That's where I want to be. And then it came down to it, and I realized I want to live. I mean, my goal is to live in Chelmsford and to teach in Chelmsford if possible.
Which is a good goal.
Yeah, but it made no sense for me to go to school in New Hampshire because they would have taught me to the New Hampshire tests, and I would have had to study and probably take classes in addition to college to get ready for the Massachusetts tests. And also, New Hampshire, since it's out of state, I would have had to pay the out of state tuition. So in the end,
Sure.
it just made so much more sense for me to go to a Mass school, and Westfield was the last one on my list. So
Westfield was the last one on your list?
yeah, so there was different things. Like I really liked Worcester State, but they actually didn't have education special ed there.
Okay.
And then Bridgewater, it was too big for me. So those two were off my list, and then it was Keene and Westfield at the end, and it just made more sense to go to Westfield.
And approximately how big is Westfield?
I think it's about 2,500, but I'm not positive.
Okay. So again, not tiny, but not as big as Elon.
Yep,
Okay.
it's pretty small, yeah.
Okay. But you guys do have a nice campus. I really did like that
Yeah, I
campus
do
a
love our
lot.
campus.
So for you, JT, you know, you looked at a lot of other schools, and I know you mentioned Wake Forest among others in there. What ultimately led you to Elon?
For sure, Elon, it was close to family I had. Like my grandparents live about 20 minutes away. And so that wasn't the biggest of concerns while looking, but it definitely was a nice part of it. And it had the best variety of programs that were also highly ranked, which I really liked because I wasn't certain.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. But you don't miss being away from home, being
Oh,
down in North
no.
Carolina or anything like that.
I love being far. I feel like a different person there.
Okay. You know, because again, as parents, sometimes, you know, and I can say in my own case, because I went far away to school, but when my son was going, I could say in my own case, originally I was thinking, I want him to go away, grow up, be his own person, but then as that time drew near, well, maybe not that far away, right? Far enough away to where he can kind of grow up and not be worried about me sort of swinging by, but then it was like, as his father, I'm like, well,
Yep.
you know, I do want to still make sure he's okay,
Yep.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So now for you, Allie, I know you had kind of set on education, but was special ed always your sort of preferred, or always want to do that? Since you
Not
were little?
really. So I always knew I wanted to be a teacher since I was little, but my junior year, one of my teachers gave me the opportunity to start working in the special ed room at Chelmsford High School, and I became an intern in there both junior and senior year, and I just fell in love with it. So like right away, I knew it was what I wanted to do. So that's really what made me change my mind. Not until
Okay.
junior year.
In all the programs you looked at the schools that you mentioned, they all have special ed programs, right? Because
Yep, most of them do.
that's okay. But now I know in your case, JT, you took a little bit different path, right? You
Yeah.
started out as a different major and switched to finance. So share with our viewers a little bit around what you started with and sort of how you made the decision to switch.
Sure. So I went in undeclared, actually. I had no idea. I had no intention of declaring right away. But I thought I wanted to go into music production or something in the arts. But then sort of towards the middle of freshman year, I started thinking, business might be more, might open more career paths for me. And then sort of towards the end of freshman year, I was like, okay, I enjoy math and I enjoy music, but it's much more of a hobby for me rather than something I'd want to make a job out of. So with that, I decided, okay, finance might be the best way to blend math with business, and so far it's stuck for me.
Okay.
And I've taken a few classes in it, and I really enjoy it.
But in your case, I know, and speaking earlier, but by switching majors, that also had an impact on your scholarships.
Oh, yes, it did. I came in thinking about the arts partly because I had a $5,000 a year scholarship or something specifically for research in that. But I decided that doing research, especially in the arts or even in the social sciences, didn't align with my interests at all. And so I had to drop the scholarship, which so far I've been fine without.
But you're much happier being a finance major.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So JT, now that you're a finance major, give us a little preview. What is ultimately your goal after school? Right, you're a little bit closer to the finish line than Ali is. So
right.
What do you see for yourself down the road?
So right now I'm actually in the middle of applying for internships for next summer, even for investment banking. I'm hoping to go to Wall Street after school at least a few years, and then I'm considering, do I want to do an MBA or potentially go into private equity, hedge funds, something of the sort.
Okay, be a money guy.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. And it sounds, it sounds kind of obvious, but I'd like to ask you the same question. Yep. What are your plans and where do you see yourself after Westfield?
Yeah, so after 4 years, I'm gonna apply for jobs because you can get a teaching job without your master's right away. And then I think you have up until 5 years to get your master's, so I would get my master's as I'm already teaching. It's what the hope is if I get a job right away.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I know, it takes a really special kind of person to do special ed. So, that's awesome that you want to do that because it takes I know it's hard work and, it's hard work and you deal with a lot, right? Any particular grade level that you would like to teach special ed?
Yeah, so it's either middle school or high school. I got the opportunity to teach in both McCarthy Middle School classroom and Chelmsford High's classroom. So they both have their pros and cons, definitely. So I think that it will be more clear as I keep going. I haven't even taken any education classes at Westfield yet. I start next year. So okay. I'm hoping it will come clear to me as I go on. But.
Now, later on for graduate school, any thoughts around where you might want to go down the road? Or too far ahead?
It's kind of too far ahead. It would need to be in Massachusetts for my for me to take my MTELs. And I most likely will be taking it in night classes because hopefully I'll have a job already. Right. So somewhere nearby Chelmsford.
Right. Okay. Yep. Any plans for graduate school after Elon for you, JT?
It'll probably be an Ivy. Hopefully Harvard or NYU Stern. Maybe Wharton. I haven't really thought about it too much. Just something prestigious, you could say.
On to get your MBA.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what I'd like to have you do is think back to high school a little bit and talk a little about the transition and because I think that when you're in high school, and I know as parents, we have this sort of vision of what college is maybe supposed to be like, and maybe part of that is based on what we think, our own experience at college. But what were some of the things that maybe you thought about college or were expecting as you were going to college that really turned out to be true? Like I thought that this was going to happen, and sure enough it did. What were some of those things? Ali, I'll start with you.
Yep. So everyone told me that once you get to school, like you're gonna have so much free time and that you're gonna be like on your own and a grown up. And I didn't think it was true because I was going to school in Mass. So I was like, no, my parents will still be close. Like they'll take care of me. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's true that you're on your own. You have so much free time, and like I didn't know what to do with myself half of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but you're right. I mean, when you go off to college, you have all this free time. So, so what ended up with that free time? Like, how did you end up filling it?
Yeah, so it actually was really nice because you're going into college and the classes are harder, so I had a lot more time for schoolwork. Because in high school I was playing sports and I didn't really have much time to focus on school. So in college I definitely had a lot of extra time to really focus, and then when you get there you're starting over, you don't have any friends, so it really helped me. Like, I had so much time to just go out and meet new people and still have time for my work too.
Okay. You know, and that brings up a good point. I'm going to circle back to you, JT, in just a moment on the same question. But because you went to school in Massachusetts, how many kids from Chelmsford High, your graduating class, ended up going to Westfield? And because I'm sure there were a certain number,
Yeah.
there was a lot. And how many of those Chelmsford High kids do you see on a regular basis at Westfield?
So in my grade specifically, there's I think about 15. There's a good amount of us, and I see them pretty often. Our campus isn't big, so I didn't have classes with any of them, but just walking around, you tend to see them a lot. And then there's even more in grades above me that I see around campus as well. Yep.
Okay, all right, excellent. Now, how about you, JT? So back to the original question, again, thinking back to high school, you know, what was something that maybe you thought that you were expected or you heard that really turned out to be true as you got to Elon?
From teachers in high school, I heard that classes definitely are harder in college, and I'd say, so I had that expectation, and it came true, but definitely not how I expected. It was mostly not like in the classroom really that it was difficult. It was a lot more out of classwork that it really forced you to think and think outside of the box in that way. And that's really where that's where the challenge came, I'd say.
Okay. To the extent that you can, give us and our viewers an example of sort of what you mean.
Sure. So my freshman year fall, I actually had an economics course, which I had never taken in high school. And so the professor, he can teach you so much, but then when he would give us assignments, you'd have to go the extra mile to think and actually like explain your answers, because class was mostly discussion based. So if you didn't really think, you couldn't contribute. And what are you getting if you're not thinking at all?
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay. And did you have any friends from CHS who ended up at Elon with you?
No. I know one student at Elon from Chelmsford just graduated. I know there's one in the grade above me, but aside from that, that's it. No one else from Chelmsford High at Elon, and maybe one or two from Westford as far as I'm aware.
Okay. And so, you know, so really on this particular issue, I mean, some people might think it's kind of silly, but in some ways you're tapping into some of the parents' fears, like, you know, is my son or daughter gonna, you know, have a good time at college? You know, not partying, right? That's different, but you know, be able to sort of make friends and sort of get along and have a good experience on campus. So in your case, Allie, you had a number of people who from Chelmsford High, so you knew them.
Yep.
To at least a certain extent.
Yep.
From Chelmsford, but Elon was a completely different world for you, JT. So share with us a little bit more about sort of just that transition, you know, the day-to-day sort of, you know, going to class, activities, whatever, and sort of how you sort of acclimated yourself to that campus.
Sure. So it definitely was an adjustment. I didn't really start settling, I'd say, till maybe midway through sophomore year, to be quite honest. I didn't want to leave Elon too soon though, but I'd say for the most part, just getting acclimated, it was just trying to grab lunch with other people as much as possible, trying just not to do things alone. And I ended up making a few of my closest friends early on, but it was just branching out beyond that really took time to develop.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So now let's take the opposite tack, right? So we talked about things that you expected that did happen. So let's go the other way. So JT, what was something that maybe you had this impression of while you were in high school about college? So you're thinking, oh, you know, college is going to be like this, or I'm going to expect this, but just ended up not happening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I definitely in high school, I was under the impression that a lot more people in like each class would actually talk or participate, because I mean, to me it made sense. You're paying for college, why would you not go the extra mile? But actually getting to college, that was definitely not the case. And I've always talked a lot in class, so I guess I've been able to take advantage of that, fortunately, but it definitely was a little bit of a shock to me.
Okay. Okay. And how about you, Allie? Same question.
Yep. For me, it was going into college. I was like, I'm going to make so many friends. Like, I'm going to meet so many new people. But I think after going to school with the same people for 12 years, you kind of forget how to make friends and how to socialize with people you don't know. So like it was difficult at first to meet new people and know how to interact with people that you had never met before. And it sounds silly, but really when you've been going to school with the same people, it's a big change going to college.
That strangely makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally understand what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
if you've been around the same people all the time.
Totally the same here.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you, what's the best thing that you like about your respective schools? So Allie, what's the best thing that you like about Westfield?
The best thing I like about Westfield, I love our campus. It's just exactly what I was looking for in a campus. Yeah.
Okay. And we talked about the open space,
Yep.
and the grass,
The
having
grass.
the grass.
Yeah, I love the grass.
Okay.
Yep.
How about you, JT? What's the best thing you like about Elon?
There were a couple things. For one, there were a lot of great professors, and it was smaller classes too, so you could actually get to know the professors. And when that happens, they become just a great mentor, a career guide. And going off of that too, the school just has excellent career services, which I've really taken advantage a lot of the last year.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can add on to his
Yeah,
too,
sure.
I have a lot of friends that go to big schools too, and they can get away with skipping classes because their professor doesn't even recognize them, or they don't get to know their professor. And like I could go into a small school, I had classes smaller than I did at CHS, and the professors all knew us by names. I could email them and they would know exactly who I was, and it really helps with my grades a lot.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about that for just a moment. So, again, as freshmen, I know sometimes because you're taking more of the introductory classes, the classes might be a little bit bigger, and then as you get more into your major, they drop down. But from your experience this past years, finishing up freshman year, what was your largest class? Sort of how many people for your largest, and what would you say the average was?
I had one lecture, and it was about 50 people, but majority of my classes were around 20, 25 people.
Okay, so so that's not very big at all.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same as Chelmsford High School.
Okay.
Yep.
How about you, JT? So at Elon, I know you're a year further ahead, but if you think about sort of when you first started, what was maybe your largest and what was the average class size?
So Elon actually caps all classes at 33 students max, so that was the largest I've had. And I'm actually still having that because, I'm getting to upper level classes, but they're mostly survey or upper intro level. But as it goes on, I'm seeing more that are like 20 people or 18 students. And that's sort of, for finance, which is one of the bigger majors at the school, that's sort of the smallest you'll see.
Okay, okay. So now you have the benefit of hindsight, right? So you're past high school, you're in college, you're doing it now, you're living the experience. Let's focus on sort of your peers, right, students. Yep. So if you had one good tip that you could offer high school students today, right, who are maybe about to start on this college search or thinking about it, what would be a tip that you're offering? We'll start with you, JT. What would be a tip for the students?
Definitely look at school with the mindset that you don't know what you want to study. Even if you have an idea, you never know, and your mind could change like it did for me. So having a school that had such a great variety of top-notch programs, that really made me glad that I was able to change, because otherwise I would have been having to transfer, making new friends, getting acclimated, and you don't want to go through that. You don't want to go through it a second time, as great as it might be.
Okay, okay. What about you, Allie? What's one tip that you offer your fellow students?
I would say when you're picking schools, I feel like in high school, not a lot of people, but some people have the mindset like, I'm going to go to school with my friends I already have. Like some people want a room with their best friends. And I think that you really just need to focus on the school itself and what it provides academically, and not, I want to go here because it's a big school and I want to have fun. But it's only 4 years at school, and it's going to fly by, and you need to know what you're going to be doing in the future. So you want to go to a school that provides a lot, like JT said, and that will make you succeed academically. Yeah.
And if I could add on, definitely what Ali said, focus on yourself. Don't focus on what other people are telling you, what your friends are looking at. Don't let that influence you, because that's what they want to study, not what you want. Okay. You're not going to go into a job interview with your friend right there beside you, so why go to the same school just because they're going? And
speaking of dorms, did you end up rooming with someone from high school?
No, I did not. No,
okay.
I was friends with one girl that I was friends with in high school. Everyone else from Chelmsford, I'm obviously friendly with them, but it wasn't any of my close friends. I just had one there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you, JT, when you first started at Elon? I mean, I know that there wasn't anybody else from Chelmsford, so you were going to live a complete stranger, right? So
yeah. I definitely lucked out that my roommate and I got along well enough. Like, we were able to live together, which obviously is the biggest concern. And with that, definitely just be honest with the roommate assignment, like surveys and everything, and don't be afraid to reach out on your class's Facebook and be like, I'm looking for a roommate. If you're interested, let me know, and then let other people know too. I didn't do that, so there was a little fear, but I definitely lucked out then.
Okay, excellent, great tip. So let's switch gears. So we talked about a tip for students, but a lot of times when you're going through this process, you as students have to manage the parents, right? Because we're the ones who freak out and worry and stress and all this stuff. So what's one tip, right? And this would be our final question for today. But what's one tip that, Ali, we'll start with you, that you would offer the parents?
Yep, I think that I have an older sister, so I didn't have to help them too much, but I think that they did a good job, and I would give the tip to other parents that you just kind of have to let your child not figure it out on their own, but they're going to college, they're going to be on their own in a year once they're applying. So they should pick the schools that they want to apply to. They should look into their programs themselves, do the whole application process themselves. Obviously the parents can help, but I think I did mine on my own, and it definitely helped me because I looked into the schools on my own and I knew exactly what to expect when I got there.
Okay, excellent. And how about you, JT? Quick tip for the parents.
So I definitely agree with what Ali is saying. Let the student go through the process themselves, but also before your kid graduates, give them some time just to learn how to take care of themselves a little bit. That way when they actually get to college, that part of the whole life adjustment is a lot easier. My parents did that for me, and I definitely felt like I was ready to take care of myself, not rely on other people.
I think you just gave parents permission to make their kids do their own laundry.
Yep. Learn how to do that before you go.
Yeah, if they're not, I would be concerned myself.
But that's a great tip, though. So thank you so much to my very special guests today, Ali and JT. I think that they shared some great tips, sort of the behind the scenes and the student's perspective about this college search process. I know that as a parent myself, I was worried about a lot of these things that they had shared with you. So thank you again to our viewers for joining us for this great episode, and tune in next time when we take another issue out of the Personal Finance Playbook. Have a great day.